Okay, thank you. So I will talk about how the climate objectives have been shaping the energy finance agenda, and especially focusing on the case of World Bank in Laos. But just first, I'll have just some quite general remarks on this energy finance issues, and I think one could say that at the moment several actors in the energy finance are aiming to form a new energy agenda and respond simultaneously to the challenge of climate change, and then also to the issue that of access especially of energy, especially to the poor, and thus there seems to be this kind of triple objectives formed of energy security, alleviation of energy poverty, and climate friendliness, and an aim to build synergies between these goals. Dominant actors like World Bank that have been criticized in the past for anti-poor and anti-climate energy finance aim now also to produce these win-win narratives of these three objectives, and this is also of course relevant to for them to keep the energy issues in their own domain. Of course, then discussion is important of how this new rhetoric is matching with the actual funding at the moment. Of course, the issue of defining, there's a lot of agreement that finance on clean energy has to be increased, but of course the definitions is still under debate, and there are aims to portray, for example, nuclear, large-scale hydro, and so on as clean energy, and others then oppose and say that this should not be treated as sustainable clean energy. Also definitions of renewable energy, for example, World Bank has this definition of renewable and new renewable energy, and in the new renewable energy large-scale hydro is excluded, but it's included in the renewable energy definition. Just some remarks on this public versus private finance. Of course, public finance is very important, and in the past as well. For example, subsidies have been the way to make, for example, nuclear and large-scale hydro to become established technologies. And one could, of course, then think that, of course, renewable energy, clean technologies, of course, then also would need more subsidies, but at the moment fossil fuels still receive a lot of public subsidies, and this hopefully will change in the future. In energy-related ODA, that is quite significant, of course, in development countries, and there also still more steps should be taken towards low carbon finance. In the questions in the private finance, of course, it's very much the flows of private finance are outstripping the public ones, and what was discussed yesterday, for example, in John presentations and so on. So the commercialization of the power sector and also the commodification of electricity and so on has made the situation to be so that there's actually more governance systems for energy finance than of energy finance, and in a sense there's an imbalance there, because if there is expectations on that private energy sector should deliver to climate change objectives and the energy poverty alleviation objectives, then it's not really matching with the current weak governance systems in place. Then, of course, this has not been discussed yet so much, but there's a new stream of funds to energy sector. Current level of funds not relatively small, but nonetheless significant. So climate finance and carbon markets, in a sense they are a mix of public and private funds. For example, carbon markets have been promoted and supported with public money, like ODA, for example. Currently, CDM has been the largest source of mitigation finance. There, of course, credit-wise, mostly the prominent category has been the elimination of industrial gas, but then project-wise, mostly or 60% of the projects are renewable energy projects. But this, for example, includes large hydro. Voluntary markets, it's quite relatively small and has been decreasing lately because of financial crisis, for example. CDM experiences thus far, the twin objective of CDM is to address the mitigation and then sustainable development goals at the same time. I won't go now into details, but I think you know there's been a lot of discussion in both of these objectives in mitigation problems of additionality, double countings, and the whole offsetting logic has been challenged. But still, I think there are many that see that in mitigation the CDM is delivering better, but in the sustainable development goal, there is quite agreement that so far it has been failing in delivering to the poor, and there is of course a very inherent structural reason also for this, because the market logic, if you want to maximize the credits, you want to target the big polluters, and the big polluters really are the poorest groups. And so far, for example, provision of rural energy that could have a lot of synergies with the sustainable development and poverty alleviation goals has been the most rare, amongst the most rare project types. This is just a glance of CDM project in the Mekong, so it just shows that it's a relevant question here. Project-wise, Thailand has had the most, but credit-wise, Vietnam, Cambodia and Laos, a small number of projects, but Cambodia is an interesting case in the sense that it has the highest amount of CDM projects amongst the least developed countries. But outcomes have been quite similar what I discussed in the previous slide. And of course, one of the concerns and discussions goes around what is CDM then providing a new source in this region for hydropower, and somewhat the criteria have been strengthened in the CDM executive board on this, but still it might, there are several projects at validation stage. In Vietnam also registered hydropower projects. Voluntary markets have not been that significant, but still there have been renewable energy initiatives under this framework. For example, Nexus, Geres, SNV in Cambodia and Laos are working on this field. And then to World Bank, which is still a very important source of funds for energy projects in developing countries, and since 2004 at least, World Bank has been claiming to work for the revolution in renewables. It also has aimed to be a key institution in climate finance, and energy-related funds include the climate investment funds and different carbon funds under carbon finance unit. Still, the credibility of this pro-climate agency has been a bit challenged because there's not that systematic mainstreaming yet in the country assistance strategies and the overall energy portfolio. well, there's been, I think, a lot of controversies in the World Bank energy finance in the past. One stream of the criticism has been related to the poverty alleviation outcomes, and well, for example, the commercialization of power sector and electricity sector in the 90s actually lowered the rural electrification rates in several countries, and then also the private sector models haven't been always so successful in really reaching the very poorest and so on. I think the bigger question has been still the negative social, environmental and climate impacts. And in the new energy strategy that is under drafting still, these criticism there is an aim to respond to them, and the two guiding new objectives are to increase the access to modern energy services for the poor and facilitate the shift to environmentally friendly and low carbon energy sector development. In renewable energy, well, it's given a central role, and two forms have been highlighted in the strategy: hydropower, and then as the main large-scale solution. In the small-scale solutions, off-grid solutions, solar home systems is highlighted, and in a sense, well, this is not maybe so novel focus. Well, in the 90s, because of a lot of the criticism that hydropower finance, the World Bank hydropower finance lowered, but then it has been recently increasing again. And then among the off-grid projects in the past, well, it has been the main off-grid solution supported by World Bank. But just what is the link to the okay. To the region in this, it's just interesting that Laos is very illustrative for these two trends in renewable energy in the latest energy strategy. So I think it's then good to keep in mind that the Lao case also serves for more global discussions in the sense, and there, of course, well, the hydropower support is represented by the Namten 2 case, and then World Bank has been funding the solar home systems as part of off-grid rural electrification. And it seems that World Bank vision for Laos is very much that it serves as the, well, not only as the battery, but now it's framed as the green battery of the region. So it has been, of course, the battery for the region for several decades, but now it's framed as the green battery. I think I don't have to discuss so much the Namten 2. It has been discussed yesterday, and many of you are very well aware of it. But it just shows that this win-win narrative and the twin objectives of addressing the or being pro-poor and climate friendly at the same time, it seems that it's not really happening with the Namten 2 case so evidently, at least. And there's a lot of issues still to be resolved in, for example, with the well, also with the resettlement, but more with the downstream affected communities and the climate benefits. There's not really evidence on that. There's not even data released on the possible quite high methane emissions from the very large reservoir. Then with the solar home system program, I think Samuel already introduced a bit to this, so I just mainly maybe highlight some of the findings. Well, so far around 15,000 households have been reached with this, so it's quite a good number and successful in that sense. But then, reaching the poverty alleviation goals or being very revolutionary to guiding to new pathway in sustainable energy or so on. So the results are a bit more modest. It seems that it serves as a quite temporal solution. One of the issues relates to the viability thing. The implementation model is a private sector model, and for the private company PESCO, it's not very viable to really reach the actual target areas that are the very remote areas. So often these solar home systems have served more as a pre-grid electrification, while the quality problems with the panels have also made it temporal. Often the panels have been dysfunctional after 6 or 7 years. And generating income, yes, maybe for the better connected villages, but when actually reaching the most remote areas, it's more challenging because the monthly fees, even though it's very modest in a sense, but in the areas of subsistence economy, it can be quite high, and we found in many cases that people were selling their very important livestock to cover the monthly fee. And of course, the often claimed health, environmental and climate benefits are quite modest because solar home systems of this scale are not displacing a very significant amount of firewood because it's not used for cooking and so on. So World Bank's renewable revolution in Laos has been mostly about selling old stuff in new package, and also it has been the case of using new low carbon frames to justify the large-scale hydropower, and large-scale hydropower is a very questionable answer for both, often also for mitigation, but even more for the poverty alleviation objective. And what can be learned from this focus on the solar home systems? Well, for small-scale renewable energy solutions to foster, they should not be treated only as marginal and temporary, what has happened with the solar home systems, and in the technology choice, local appropriateness should be more important than easy universal applicability, which actually seems to have been the main rationale for the choice of solar home systems in the Laos case, and more generally for the reason why World Bank has been preferring solar home systems for as their main off-grid solution. And and also, of course, the institutional design needs more attention than that. For example, in this solar home system case, financial viability of private sector model and then social concerns would need to be better balanced. Then more generally, general remarks on this quite challenging energy, poverty, climate nexus. The win-win storylines of this nexus often are debatable, and maybe more honest attention to the possible trade-offs should be, or more attention should be paid to that, and it's important to look critically also the use of climate arguments in justifying decisions in energy finance, and of course clean energy finance as such is not yet an answer for uneven distribution of energy benefits and their human and environmental course some more attention should be paid on energy justice, and also of course more public participation and involvement is needed also to really open up the discussions related to the energy justice. Okay, maybe I'll finish here. Sorry, I probably was rushing through a little bit too fast, but yes.
Thanks, Mira. Thank you for your presentation. Is there any questions from the audience? Yes, please.